For the restore coordinator report.
Okay, there are two items on the restore report. The first item is about the airport fuel farm and Triumph application. On February 5th of 2019, the board authorized Allen to submit a pre-application to Triumph for some $920,000 of Triumph funds for new fuel farm at the airport. At the time, Allen, AFCON, they were both expecting FDOT to provide a backup generator. Well, FDOT overcommitted on the funds that they have available, so the Triumph application was expanded to some $1.04 million to include funds for a backup generator. The revised application will be submitted to Triumph tomorrow, and it will be put into the board files. I have a copy of it. As soon as they send me the final draft, I'll forward it to the clerk for the board files. So I don't need any action.
No
Commissioner.
action.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm sorry, no action for that. I just need to inform you that we increased the amount of that Triumph application, okay?
That's
Alan
good.
just need me to inform you guys of that.
It's best we have our own anyway.
Yes, yes, and then you also don't have to depend on the FBO out there, because remember that was part of the negotiations with the contract. We don't have to do that anymore, so we're gonna get our own generator via Triumph. Now, number two, Commissioners, I do need board action, and it's to authorize the chairman to sign a pre-application for the FDEP erosion control program, which would help fund a beach along the damaged part of Alligator Drive. Mr. Mike Dabrowski is preparing the application, and it will put as part of the board file when completed. The deadline for submission is July 31st. The request to FDP is not a commitment that county will do the project, but it is our application to FDP that they will then prioritize and submit to next year's legislative funding.
So moved.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Bolt. Any more discussion on that?
I guess this is for the shoreline protection seaward
sir.
of the road.
Yes, sir.
That gonna be like beach renourishment, pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. That's what you're telling DEP, Florida DEP.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
If I may, I could move on to my report now, Commissioner, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, next on the agenda will be Mr. Michael Marone, County Coordinator report.
All right, Commissioners, for board information, Mr. Currington has submitted the following projects to FDOT for Small County Road Assistance Program, also known as SCRAP, and the Small County Outreach Program, also known as SCOP funding. The two SCRAP funding projects are widening and paving of Highway 67 from the State Forest Road 166 to State Forest Road 172, which you see there for $1.4 million. And the second SCRAP is widening and paving Highway 67 from State Forest Road 172 to the Liberty County line. That is $2.1 million. The SCOP projects, the first one is widening and resurfacing Timber Island Road from Highway 98 to the Caribou River, $1900,000. And the second one is paving the unpaved portion of Mill Road to Burnt Bridge Road, $1.05 million, close to 1.06. There was some bridge repair improvement work that Mr. Currington considered, but because it didn't meet FDOT's requirement, it wasn't submitted for funding. So I'm going to give a copy of all these applications to the clerk's office for the board file. Number two, if there are questions, inform the board that FDOT has returned the signed SCOP agreement to design the widening and resurfacing of the eastern end of County Road 30A west of Apalachicola. At this time, with the authorization from the board, the county can proceed with advertising for an engineering firm to design the improvements.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
Thank you. Item three, Commissioners, FDOT has notified staff that they are ready to proceed with the first phase of construction on the Alligator Point multi-use path, which will run from the marina eastward to Harbor Circle. Before Franklin County can begin this project, we will need to authorize the engineers on the project, Dewberry Engineers, to apply for a coastal construction control line permit and to update the construction plans for the project. Board action.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Burke, second by Commissioner Parrish. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That pass unanimous.
All All right, we've already addressed item 4 early in the meeting. Item 5, staff received a request from Community Action Agency to approve up to $300 so that a broken gas line could be repaired. This request is for an East Point Lime Rock Fire survivor family that is living in one of the RV camper trailers located at 701 Ridge Road. This family is still trying to purchase a lot so they can get a permanent home. Board action.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Parrish. Any more discussion on that? That's ALP, we ain't got no answers over here. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimous.
Okay, item 6 is based on an email I got from Ms. Angela Webster, who is here to answer your questions. And it's basically, I asked her for an update as to where they are with their list that they're working on. This is community action when I say they. For information, the following is an update from Ms. Angela Webster at Community Action Agency on their permanent housing list. Community Action Agency's list shows a total of 15 Lime Rock fire survivors leasing camper trailers from Capital Area Community Action Agency. There are 4 survivors in permanent housing, but only 3 were leasing camper trailers. The first of the 4 to receive permanent housing was 691 Ridge Road. The other 3 survivors leasing camper trailers were 743 Buck Street, at 621 Wilderness Road, and at 615 Ridge Road. According to Ironwood Homes, they should receive permanent housing for 4 survivors this week because delivery was delayed due to last week's weather conditions. Made a change there, Angela, because it was dated. These are at 675 Ridge Road, 576, that should be Ridge, I'm sorry, and 601 Ridge Road, and then 605 Wilderness Road.
Question, Mike?
Yes, sir?
With these coming this week, what the total with so far?
8.
That's
8.
further down, but, and Angela, you wrote this, so you can answer that question quicker than I, if I
Okay,
can.
for the ones that's in the, good evening, good afternoon, Commissioners. Angela Webster, Community Action. But after we get these 4 in this week, that will leave us with 7, because one of them received the camper trailer as replacement for her loss of residence. So that would leave us with 7 people in camper trailers that would be needing permanent housing.
So that's the total, no, I'm trying to get a total
Of how many
so far.
people total?
Yeah.
Now,
So-
you have so many that's in camper trailers that we deal with, and then Deborah Belcher deals with the others.
Yeah,
Okay.
they had
So I
15
wouldn't
on
know
their
her
list,
number,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, you had 15 on yours?
Yes,
So you done 8?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and continue. So one of the survivors at 16 Washington Street was approved by this board to receive the camper trailer she's currently leasing as a replacement for lost residents, and was referred to. This brings him to 7 survivors in need of permanent housing. 2 of these survivors are requesting the camper trailers as replacement for loss of residents.
Mike.
Sir?
Mr. Chairman, on that issue, you say you have 2 survivors that are requesting camper trailers as a replacement for loss of residents. These camper trailers will be put into a RV park or something, because they're not allowed on that particular.
Yes, because one of them that's requesting it, his is already in the RV park.
Okay, so the other one knows that they have to go to an RV park.
Yes, and
Not-
we would sit down first to discuss having them, presenting to them the county ordinances and making them sign an agreement
Okay,
before
Good.
we would do that.
okay.
Good deal.
Okay. 4 survivors of the remaining 5 on the list have been approved for CDBG funding. These 4 families are experiencing some challenges with ownership of land. Now, Tress and Angela met with the pastor of the church that adopted one of the families and has agreed to purchase land for the family at 714 Buck Street. This leaves them with 3 families experiencing challenges with land, but she's working with them to overcome these challenges. Our remaining family would be at 606 Wilderness Road, and they're requesting a new mobile home. However, they're not eligible for CDBG because they did not own a home, only an RV. That's during the fire.
Okay, now, question. When y'all do this y'all said the church had adopted the family. When y'all doing this procedure, is somebody from the church there so y'all can explain to them what the deal is?
Yes, he came and met with us. He came to Franklin County here in Appalachian, sat down with us, spoke about it. And he wants to put a lien on the land, just like the CDBG grant does. He's gonna do it for the same amount of time.
So all of them in agreement.
Yes.
That's
I
okay.
got a question. The one at 606 Wilderness, do they own that land?
No, they do not. This family was originally set up by the county before Community Action took over. They were set up at an RV park in East Point, I think at Washington Street, 15 Washington Street. They took it upon themselves to move that camper to this address.
Okay,
And I think it's a property, I'm not sure if they're actually renting it. When I spoke to the tenant, she said that she works for the person who owns it.
the way I understand it, the issue we're gonna have is any and everybody that's receiving help has to actually own the property, correct?
Right, correct.
Okay. So, I mean, what are we really looking at doing for this family then if they don't own the property? I mean, it's on here saying that they, they're not eligible for CDBG, that's because they don't own the property.
Correct.
And, they might have been living in an RV before, that's actually irrelevant. What I want to know is, do they own the property? Are there funds that can actually help them? A fire is a fire, it took what it took. But they have to own their property, as I understand it, to be able to do anything, so,
I can sit down and speak with them and see about them purchasing property. One of the tenants is actually incarcerated. It's a couple, and one of them is incarcerated, and he kind of is the person that has the finances
right.
to do what needs to take place.
At the end of the day, y'all have done a great job, Ms. Deborah's done a great job. I've just tried to make sure as a commissioner, when people come to me with issues or things that they feel like they need to discuss with me, that they understand that our job as a commission in this whole deal was trying to secure the grant funding and try to secure an agency that could do something with the monies that were donated
Correct.
to make sure people are taken care of. Past that, there are requirements and stipulations and things that are part of a grant process that we really have no say-so over.
Right,
But that's why I was asking about this particular.
okay.
That and also Commissioner Jones, making sure everybody's held to the same standard.
Yes.
That's a major
Yes.
issue that
Yeah,
if you give one a waiver, then why couldn't I get a waiver? And you get into that, so we want to hold everybody to the same standard.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we got to go by, we got rules too.
Yes.
That's what it boils down to. And we got to follow the rules.
and also, Mr. Chairman, it's not a desire not to help also, Angela, but we have to make sure, because if they're not eligible for CDBG funding, then our only other recourse as a county to try to help them is funding from the donated funds.
Correct.
But we can't really take that step until we know everybody's been helped, because then if you use donated funds to buy a residence,
Correct.
and there are other things that need doing, there's no more donated funds to draw from.
Right.
So that's the caveat, that's the catch-22, if you will. So, thank you.
You're welcome. That's it?
Is that it? Angela, we good? Everybody good with the update? Okay. Before I move to my final item, while I was here waiting, I'm sorry, not here waiting, I was here this morning in the
Thank you,
meeting.
Miss Angela, we sorry.
I'm sorry, Angela, thank you so
We
much.
sorry we kept you so long.
Thank you. I got an email from Ginger at the sheriff's office. Basically, it says, "Hi, Michael. FDLE called a few minutes ago. There's some additional signatures needed for the JAG grant. You guys had approved one of the signatures before. They will not release the code that is needed for them to access the grant. So I just need you guys to make a motion to authorize the chairman's signature on the additional documentation that's needed to allow the sheriff to access the JAG grant funds."
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones. Any more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
Item 7 is my last item. The county has received a letter from USDA Forest Service. The new recreational fee changes will be implemented on July 26th to assist the department with maintaining sites and trails. A letter stating the affected campgrounds and day use areas along with the change rates is attached to my report. It basically applies to Hickory Landing and Wright Lake. Those are the fee changes. That's what they're both in detail, yes? No.
Yep.
I knew I would mess it up. They're both in the
65.
national forest. And that's my report, Commissioners.
Okay. Anybody got anything for Mr. Maroon? All right, next on the agenda will be Mr. Michael Schuler Thomas, County
Which is-
Attorney.
The first item on my report deals with a Williams Hospital contract. Mr. Morone, are we proceeding on that or tabling it until next Friday? I think it should be tabled till next Friday.
Next Friday would be good.
All right, so, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'll move to item 2. The Franklin County Tax Collector has determined that a tax deed needs to be set aside and the funds refunded. That would require that the gentleman who obtained the tax deed would have to reconvey the parcel back to the county. The tax collector has made that decision for the reasons set forth in my report. What I'm basically doing today, I want to make sure that the board is officially aware of this decision by the tax collector, and that you would be receiving a conveyance of a small parcel of property over in Carabel. It's the north half of Lot 14, the west half of Lot 15, Block 17, Kelly's Plat, Carabel, Franklin County, Florida. And my requested actions is that the board accept title to the real property for the reasons set forth in my report.
Pleasure to the board.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Massey, second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
Item number 3 on my report is simply a request that the board refer to your Planning and Zoning Commission the request by some of the C4 property owners on St. George Island to request some grandfathering of some structures that were pre-existing from the date that you adopted the overlay ordinance. The essential issue is that under the current overlay ordinance, they are not grandfathered in and they don't have any commercial uses of their property. They're all purely residential. And your P&Z may not have any comment that they want to make. I think following your usual protocol as these types of matters go before planning and zoning for them to at least have the opportunity to review and provide any commentary they think is appropriate. So with
So
that, I'll-
moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Jones. Any more discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
And the final item is, I guess we're both channeling Mr. Pierce a little bit today. You would recall he had mentioned to you the need to try and obtain a couple of parcels of land at Alligator Point to try and straighten out the curve at the intersection of Tom Roberts Road and Alligator Drive. One of those parcels is in public ownership from the Water Resources District. The other parcel is in private ownership from an adjoining owner. The Alligator Point Water Resources District believes they may be in a position to help the county obtain at least the private parcel through perhaps some swaps or other things that they may negotiate on their behalf, but they're asking the county to officially ask them to take up this request at their next board meeting, which I believe is going to be on July 21st. The parcels, as you can see, the yellow parcel outlined is the private parcel, and the parcel that's colored or outlined in blue is the parcel owned by the public entity. Mr. Pierce and the engineer had come up with this configuration that there would be a great public benefit to this realignment if it can be obtained, but the Water District again has not taken up in anything formal. They've had informal communications, mainly with Commissioner Bolt, and I guess maybe with Alan Pierce and some others, but mainly I think with Commissioner Bolt. And they're wanting us to officially ask them to consider and take action for them to possibly swap some land to help us realign that intersection.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Bolton. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passed unanimously.
Commissioners, I had a number of informational items on my report. If you have no questions for me on those informational items, that will conclude my presentation.
I just had one item.
Yes, sir.
The address at 2277 Oak Street in Lanark Village is a piece of very dysfunctional property. The owners have been asked to cooperate with the county for a long time in cleaning up that property, and they've simply not complied. So I'd like you to take the next appropriate action to force compliance, or that we get in there and clean it up as a county.
Yes, if the motion is to direct me to do due diligence, investigate the facts, and see if there's a factual basis to move forward with enforcement under your negligence ordinance, then yes, sir, I will do that.
Yes, sir, I so move.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Bolt, second by Commissioner Massey. Any discussion, any more discussion on that?
Just one thing, if I might, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Mr. Bolt, you talking about, your motion was to force compliance, but then you added in there about the county going on private property and cleaning it up. That's something that we don't do. Is that part of your motion? That will determine if I vote for or against the
Let's
motion.
see, okay.
Commissioner Pierce, what, if I may,
Go
Commissioner
ahead.
Pierce, Chairman, what we've done in the past in Lanark Village is, I'm politely persistent to begin with. That's followed by letters, and then ultimately, if necessary, to file a lawsuit to ask the court to compel them to clean up their property. I'm not proposing that the county go on private property to do any of the cleanup.
Okay.
And typically, it's never
Yeah, just
really
wanted to
gotten
clarify
to a
that,
judicial,
the way it
they
was
usually are
stated.
really, I mean, pretty good about trying to comply, assuming that, you know, sometimes you find properties that essentially are abandoned through, you know, people dying, for lack of a better, a less polite phrase to use.
Yeah.
But usually if there's some living person that I can communicate with, they want to see the property cleaned up. They don't want to be an eyesore to their neighbors either, so.
Well, Commissioner Burt, is the people in the area? I mean, now, what?
One
you dealing
individual
with?
is in the
Yeah,
hospital.
they in the area. We have tried to get them cleaned up for the last 7 or 8 months.
This,
Yes, sir. And what was the address again, Commissioner? Gold?
22, it's
22 Oak Street,
I'm sorry?
2277 or 77?
2270.
2277 Oak
Seven.
Street.
Yeah, to all, just to let you know, this is the same property that I requested maybe 2 months ago to put the dumpsters in front because they were voluntarily going to clean it up. Well, we're still there. We tried, that didn't work. So that's, it is frustrating, to be honest with you.
Okay. Any more discussion? I got it. All in favor?
Ah,
All opposed? That pass unanimous. Do what we gotta do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any more? Anybody else got anything for Mr. Shue? Okay, well, next on the agenda be commissioner comments.
Mr. Chairman, I have something for you guys.
Go
if it's
ahead.
okay. As your representative on ARPC, we're meeting this Thursday, and I know because the agenda's already been sent out to us, we're supposed to be having a presentation from FDOT about the possibility of getting an intersection or exchange off of I-10 on the Highway 65. And if there's anything you guys would like for me to take from this board to them, please let me know ahead of that time.
I like
Because I
this.
represent y'all, so, us, so,
You got
I'll-
one for 67.
okay,
Try to get one for 67 too.
okay.
I would like to see it, when they come off it, bring it all the way to East Point.
Yeah, that's
Four
what,
lane.
that's what we're talking, well, right now, we're trying to get the exchange first, but I just want to make sure you guys are aware that conversation's going to happen. ARPC's really picked up from the beginning conversation we had 4 or 5 months ago, gotten letters of support, petitioned other counties for letters of support. So we should have an FDOT presentation about it Thursday.
So all that'll be is something coming on saying you're getting on 65, right?
Right, exactly, to begin with, yes, sir.
Yeah, we need a 4-lane, that'll bring in.
Good.
Anybody else got anything for,
I-
tell Commissioner Jones about that?
You know, obviously, the attraction that we have here in this environmental area is huge, and that also is a safety factor for evacuation.
Yeah. Any more commissioner comments? Well, I got one. I guess I was asked a question. We permit, just about every meeting, we permit a lot of docks. And I guess my question will be, do we have anything in place, like that storm went, like we had this big storm last year, and a lot of them dock got tore up, blew away, but the post is still there. If we got anything in there to make the people, they come in here and get permission to build them, but some of them, for years and years, you'll see just a dock structure out there in the water. Is there anything in place to make them, if they not gonna put it back, to make them remove them posts and stuff?
No, sir.
That's a good point.
I think it need to be,
You bet.
because, you know, it's an eyesore, it's taking up room.
Think of the seawalls, to add to the same point. We permit seawalls, and then they are destroyed, the property is dysfunctional, and it's as if the homeowner has no further responsibility.
And most of them, I'm quite sure, when you build a dock like that, they get it, if they got insurance, they got paid for that dock. But they leave the posts out there. I don't know, but I'd like to see something done about that. I mean, it just, you ride all over the county and you see them. All you see is what left of a dock.
Commissioner Lockley, other communities have programs for basically abating nuisances. Now, I'm not familiar with maritime nuisances like you're referring to, but oftentimes it becomes a matter of the governmental agency has to create a statutory framework so that you then can go onto the private property, you can abate the nuisance, and then you file a lien against the property, and that gets to be very expensive. And if it's homestead property as opposed to non-homestead property, the lien won't attach. That it can become something that's rather prohibitively expensive for any local government. But we can certainly, you know, I can go out on the county attorney email network and ask for frameworks that other counties, you know, smaller coastal counties may have in place, if anything, and report back to you.
Would that be in the water, that's their property?
Yes, sir.
It is?
As I said, I'm not aware that there's ever been an abatement program when you're dealing with maritime nuisances. That's a new one for me, but there may be some process out there that's already been created so that we don't have to recreate the wheel.
Well, I guess it'd be pledge of the board, but I'm gonna ask that you check it out and give us an answer to it.
Well, I think if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, I'll just put a call for aid out to the Florida Association of Counties and the Florida Association of County Attorneys. Maybe they can even send out a request to the League of Cities to see if someone else has already created such a program, and I can provide that information, if any, back to the board.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, I wonder if we could reach back into the early planning and zoning decisions that are made when we award an approval. Is there also a carryover in that award that says that the property owner has the further responsibility legally to clean up the very thing we approved if it's destroyed?
And again, it comes down to enforcement, Commissioner
Yes,
Bolt.
I see,
And, you
yeah.
know, we could perhaps have a judicial remedy, but if they, you can't squeeze
Sure.
blood out of a turnip. They got no money. We can get a piece of paper all day long that says you gotta do it.
Yeah, yeah.
If they've got no money to do it with, and we don't know that, I'm not prejudging, I'm just saying
Sure.
those are issues that have to be looked at. You know, we can end up with a, you know, as I said, a lien on the property. We could, you know, perhaps have a contractual right to compel the property owner
Yeah.
to then clean up any of the remains when the dock or the seawall is destroyed. But then you get into the issues of, well, we had that, that restriction was on Green Acre when Joe Bob bought it. But then Joe Bob sold it to Sue, who sold it to Sally, who sold it to Bob, and you're 4 or 5 people down, and they're going to come to you and be sitting at that podium going, well, that's not fair. I didn't agree to that.
Yeah.
And we'll say, well, the paperwork says you did.
Yeah.
But, so there's some practical issues of enforcement that we need to look at. But I will see if someone has a similar program, including the nuance that you just mentioned, Commissioner Bolt, and I will report back.
Please. Good.
A lot of times, you know, that post break off on the water, a boat go through there, don't know it's there, hit it. somebody can get seriously hurt or killed. So,
I had one more comment, Commissioner.
go ahead.
I just, being your newest commissioner who just got off the block, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate the county's executive staff. Those folks that are behind these walls here that we don't see here in this room are there supporting us every day. Many of the things that we know here, the information we get is because of the briefings that we get. They take assignments, the department staffs there. When we have an issue, we email them and it's concluded and it's solved. And I just, as the newest commissioner, appreciate that service and just want to recognize the staff as being just excellent. Thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
go
can I
ahead.
say something else before we, to kind of segue us into what we got next? So we had some pretty, probably unpleasant discussions this morning for this board, probably for our citizenry as a whole about healthcare in the county. And what you saw here this morning was not dysfunction, it was a board operating in the sunshine, not having backdoor conversations, backdoor discussions, talking about things we shouldn't be talking about. We were talking about everything open and up front and honest. And it's not always looked at conveniently because, you know what, when you start discussing something that's very important to people, you get different opinions really quick and you get disagreement really quick. But I think you see, all of y'all were able to see a board today that agreed to disagree about some things and move on and worry about our job at hand. So, and that's the same thing we're moving into with this public hearing. There's no way possible today we're gonna make everybody happy. But I am optimistic that we'll have some kind of decision to make today on what we're about to face.
Okay, any more public comments? All right, now we're gonna take 5 minutes or so he can get his stuff out. And then we'll come back and do the public hearing. This concludes the